Hi everyone, this is Michelle Grove speaking. I'm an interim religious educator with the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition and find this area of work quite rewarding. I've seen great things in congregations who are willing to engage in the interim religious education process. So this video is to introduce that just a bit and to give any congregation who might be interested in exploring this specialized ministry a little bit more information. Interim religious education, I believe, was invented by a group of Unitarian Universalist religious educators back in the early 2000s. In 2005, they had put together enough understanding of the program and had gleaned a lot of education from interim ministry to put together the first interim religious education training at the GA in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. From there, the program has expanded. Almost every year since then, the UUA has held an interim religious education training. And from that, interim religious education directors and professionals have been working within UU congregations. So it's taking off. And we are just now to the point where we are starting to measure its effectiveness and maybe develop some evaluation tools and some standards that will help us to reach the next level. In 2009, a group of Unitarian Universalist interim religious educators also started to dream about an organization that would support this work. And that is where GIRE, the Guild of Interim Religious Educators, was born. GIRE is now an official organization, and it is still learning who it is and what its priorities are. We're in the midst of developing our foundation, so to speak. But in that, there's a whole group of interim religious educators and settled religious educators who have identified transition in their portfolio, who are working together to support interim religious education. So maybe you're watching this video because you are interested in exploring interim religious education for your congregation. This is a great place to start. This is what I can tell you. Unlike interim ministry, which has been around for decades and has developed a very well orchestrated, fine-tuned schedule and process, we are still developing who we are and how we work. When do you begin looking for an interim religious educator? You begin now. There's no set time. There's no deadlines. So of course, the spring, summer is more of a heavier time where interim religious educators are in search and are being hired. That doesn't mean that's the only time that happens, but it is the time when most of the action happens. The first thing you need to do is to reach out to your regional staff. The regional staff will be your best guides to help you through this process. The Guild of Interim Religious Educators is primarily supporting the educator themselves right now. We do have some resources and we'll work with you as we can, but your regional staff should be your first and foremost contact. The Guild of Interim Religious Educators website will have some resources to help, including some sample letters of agreements, and embedded in those letters of agreement, some sample job descriptions. Second of all, when you enter the hiring process, know that the Guild of Interim Religious Educators doesn't have its own message boards or job opportunity boards or the like. What we do is we use those tools which are already being utilized well. For example, the LREDA website, the Liberal Religious Educators Association website, does an amazing job for posting and advertising job opportunities. Use it. The UUA has job opportunity boards, and regional areas have job opportunity boards. Use those. That there are different models of religious education interim work. There is the typical model of hiring an interim religious educator. And that can work for both full-time, part-time. Now, trust me, there's a debate out there as to whether or not interim work can be done part-time. I say it can be. It has to be covenanted well. It has to have some priorities set on what is realistic, but it can happen. But not all interim religious educators agree with me. So you might want to glean some different opinions just to get their point of view. But go through the hiring process as you would a settled religious educator for an interim. And please know that interims are looking for a couple of things. One is we're looking for a place where we come in temporarily. We come in for 1 or 2 years, preferably 2 years, so that you can really do this work thoroughly and well. And in that the entire congregation is invested. Once our work is done, the hope would be is that the congregation has a really good vision of who they are and who they want to be as a religious education people. And then in that have identified what professional job descriptions would be helpful in making that happen. And so then you can go into a search for a settled position, and that settled person can work with you to help make those goals. So the interim work is temporary work. And in that, we have some freedom to both be compassionate and honest about what we see as we walk into that position. Second of all, it is our dream that the congregation is invested totally in interim work. That means that it's not just the search committee that thinks interim is a great idea. It's not just the religious education committee. It's not just the minister. It's that the congregation sees interim work as a vital component of becoming a fuller, more vital congregation, and they're willing to embrace it wholeheartedly. Religious education interim work is not just the work of the interim religious educator. This is your work. This is the congregation's work. We're there to be a guide. We're there to work with you. We're there to bring resources. We're there to be truth tellers. And we're there to help in any way we can so that you can achieve the best dreams possible for who you are and who you want to be. But it's not our work. It's also not just the work of a small group of people, not just the work of the Religious Education Committee or the volunteers or parents of the children's program. This is the work of the whole congregation, because religious education happens in every fiber of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. It happens when you are at coffee hour, it happens in worship, it happens in the parking lot, it happens in the religious education classroom, it happens everywhere. And I hope that congregations will embrace that and find this a fun opportunity to explore that. So when a job description or a letter of agreement reflects that, where it shows that the congregation wants to make the interim work a priority and not just keep a religious education program running, then we get excited. And that makes a great job. So look for that. Now, maybe your congregation that is a rural area, and it's hard to have a settled person who would move there for, say, a part-time job. Let's talk about some models. We have about 3 or 4 interim religious educators who have experimented with long-distance work. And there's been some great gifts that have come out of this. I'll give you an example. I worked with a congregation while I lived in South Dakota. The congregation was in Virginia. It was a part-time religious education program. So I was there for 10 days a month. And over 2 years, we were able to do good interim work while also keeping the program running. This congregation did amazing work, and by the end of it, hired a full-time religious educator who is still there after several years. It's possible. It's exciting work. So just know that there are some of those long-distance models. Maybe that doesn't work for you. So maybe the interim religious education consultant is a better model. The consultant is someone who comes in a little less often. They work with you through video conferencing, through other online resources, and then maybe are on site with you 4 to 6 times a year to do work. In this model, the congregation hires a settled religious educator, maybe for just that short period of time. And then that settled religious educator works with the interim religious education consultant to then do interim work while also keeping the program running. So just know there's some creative models out there. We can work with you. And if anybody ever wants to talk a little bit more about these models, let us know. Fill out one of the contact forms on the Geyer website or on the RE Liminal Time Weebly website. And let's have that conversation because they're fun to play with. I hope this helps. I hope it gives you a place to start. And I hope you know how passionate we are about this vocation. It's a great thing to do. And I hope that you will have the courage to enter it and give it a try. We don't have to keep running full speed. When we stop to really reflect on who we are and who we want to become, as a whole people, as a vital congregation, great things can happen. We, with Interim Religious Education, want to be a part of that. Blessings in your work, and thank you.